Something really interesting happened in my last two competitions. So as you guys probably know from what I've uploaded recently, I've been practicing a lot of 3x3 blindfolded, which means I haven't put in as much time or pretty much any time into my other main events like 3x3, 5x5. And at my last few competitions, I had those events and the previous one didn't even have blind. So I was going into it without having practiced any events that I was competing in. And obviously because of that, I didn't perform so well some of the time. I got a 5-second 2x2 average, which is pretty terrible for me. But I do want to show you something. So here is my WCA profile, and you can see that's 8.68 and 2.64 for my best 3x3 and 2x2 averages. Now, in my last few comps, I did compete in some of the other big cubes as well, but I'm not going to be talking about those so much, and I'll tell you why later. But for 2x2 and 3x3, let's see what I got at my last two competitions. So 3x3, these were the results, and 8.69, that almost beats 8.68. I probably could have beaten it if I actually practiced, but I was really surprised that I could do anywhere close to my competition best results without having practiced. And this 9.37 doesn't look so special, but the 10.67 here is actually a +2. So this would have been an 8.70 average, I believe, which again is, so that's 0.02 away from my best. So once at each competition, I almost beat my PR 3x3 average when I didn't expect to even get close to it. So I just want to show you 2x2 as well. So here at Washington Championship, I actually beat my 2x2 by a decent amount. And I thought that was just lucky scrambles because, I mean, look at what I did the rest of the day. It was terrible. But then the exact same thing happened at the next competition, and this, again, should have beaten it, but the 4.0 was a +2. And so that would have made this average around 2.4, I think. So at first, when I started practicing a lot of blindfolded and realized I have a few competitions with blindfolded, but then not many more later on, I was concerned about how well I'd be able to do in the other events. And so if you look at the average of the times that I got, it's pretty bad. Like, I'm not doing as well as usual because I haven't practiced, and that completely makes sense. But it doesn't make sense that each competition I almost beat my PR average without having practiced. So this could just be completely luck that this happened in 3x3 and 2x2, but not in the other events. But I do feel like there's something more behind this than just luck being this way and making me see patterns. So here's what I think it is. Having not practiced these events is something that I've never really done. Like, I've never gone into competitions without focusing on at least some n by n cubes. I don't usually practice 2x2 so much, but I at least make sure that I know my algorithms going into the competition so I don't totally mess up. This time I didn't do that, and I also really didn't practice 3x3. I went into the competition being worse than usual, and it does show, but I also went in with nothing to lose, which is not something that I usually feel. So normally when I go into a competition, and let's say I'm averaging the best I ever have in 3x3, then I probably will get my PR average, but it's still never as good as I'm averaging at home. But the good thing, or at least something I feel like is a good thing, is I never really get +2s or DNFs that cause me to lose a PR average, but it happened at the last competition for both 2x2 and 3x3. Kind of sad, but I think I'm heading in the right direction. And the reason is because I'm doing more risks because I have nothing to lose. So for example, what happened in the last 2x2 solve was it would have been a 2.00, but then I did the last turn the wrong direction. And the reason for that is because I didn't actually know which way it was supposed to be. So the safe thing to do would be like sort of pause, maybe take an extra 0.2 seconds to figure out which way it's supposed to be. And then I would have gotten PR average, but it would have been a worse average because I wouldn't have done the turn instantly. So what actually happened was I guessed the direction and guessed it wrong because I'm not very good at guessing that for 2x2. I haven't practiced it very much. Now what happened in 3x3 is, so as I'm making this video, I haven't actually reviewed the footage, but I think the cube was solved, and then as I dropped the cube, it hit the timer and then became a +2. Maybe it was already a +2 already, but it's on screen, you guys can see what it is. Anyway, if I was being safer, I could have maybe taken an extra 0.1 or 0.2 seconds on that solve to not do that risky timer stop and just have that be a slightly worse solve, but then still have a better average, and then my average actually would have podiumed, which I was really trying to do that competition. So what's the lesson to be learned from this? Why am I getting +2s, but I'm also getting good averages that have a chance of beating my PR? So what I think it is normally if I practice a lot for a competition, I go into the competition knowing that I have a limited number of solves. And so the way that makes me feel is that I only have one chance or two chances or three chances to actually do something good. And I really, really don't want to mess that up. Now, I guess that mindset's okay if I'm like going to the last competition of my life, but this is not the best thing to be practicing at a competition because going extra safe is like, I kind of give myself an 80% chance of doing well, but I never give myself a chance to do my best. And that's what I did at the last competition. I gave myself a chance to do my best, and because I never practiced that mindset, I messed it up twice. But if I hadn't messed those up, as it turns out, I was competing the best I ever had. And the reason I think this applies mainly to 2x2 and 3x3, but not for the bigger events. I tend to do pretty well in bigger events like 5x5 and up. The reason I think for that is because 2x2 and 3x3 rely more heavily on how well you can stop and start the timer, and it relies more heavily on little things that can possibly cause big mess ups. Like one lockup in PLL completely destroys the solve, versus in a big cube that's not as big of a deal. So because these are riskier events, I go into it with a mindset, or at least I used to go into it with a mindset of I can't mess this up. And so I think I would always subconsciously maybe turn a little slower in PLL, make sure I got the last move right, make sure my timer starts and stops are safer, and so on. And those are not the ways to perform your best, because that's not what I'm doing at home. And obviously those all take a little bit more time to actually make sure I've done that. So I think moving forward, what I want to do is go into competitions with a mindset that obviously this is not going to be my last competition, and I shouldn't be so worried about the results I get here, because this is kind of like a competition by competition progress that I have to make in how I approach these solves, that I'm not supposed to just play it safe all the time, because yes, I'll have worse results right now since I'm not used to being risky in competition, but at the same time, that's going to get better over time. Like, I'm gonna know if I take risks more, what tends to happen, and be able to fix that. And for 2x2, I really think I did the right thing, as in the last turn was wrong, and I didn't actually know what the last turn was supposed to be. But sometimes when making split-second decisions, like, I really thought that I was right. I just had a gut feeling that it went in that direction, and the last turn didn't go in that direction. But if I actually practice 2x2, and if I actually practice whatever event that I'm doing, and I have a gut feeling about something, it's probably going to be right because I've practiced it, and that's where the gut feeling comes from my experience. It's just that this time in 2x2, it didn't come from experience, because I'm not very experienced at 2x2. Usually it would be, or at least ideally it would be, and that's the type of thing that I should keep doing. So the thing that messed me up in 2x2, I think that was a good thing, and that's really the only way I'm going to perform my best in competition. And obviously I won't perform my best every time, or maybe not even more consistently than usual, but I do think my best averages could be a lot better if I keep applying this mindset. I'm actually surprised at how long it took me to realize this, because so I used to play competitive tennis, and one thing that I used to kind of like pride myself on was that I had never lost a match after having match point. For some reason, I imposed this thinking on myself that if you can get to match point, then you should win. But that's not how it works, because normally if you get to match point and you lose, the reason is not because you choked. Usually the reason is because the other player was just as good or better than you, and they happened to just play well in that moment, and then you lost your match point. But I really should have been thinking about it the opposite way, in the sense that if you get to match point, that means you gave yourself an opportunity to win. So why am I concerned before the match about whether or not that happens? Because if I ever get to match point at all, that's a great thing. Then I shouldn't be worried about getting to match point and losing, because I can't control what happens after I get there. The point is, it's better to get there first. I don't think that thinking ever messed me up. I did have one match where I got to match point and then I blew it, and then my opponent got to match point and he blew it, and then I ended up winning the match. And because I was thinking about that so much, I was playing so safe, and my opponent was probably thinking the exact same thing. So luckily I got away with it, but I don't think that's the right type of thinking to have, where you just play it extra safe, not wanting to lose, because that's not how you ever perform at your best. Maybe it'll get you through some things, knowing that you're not going to completely mess it up, but at the same time, it never lets you go at your best, and that's ultimately, through a long period of time of competing, that's what you'd rather have. So I've always been too much focused on not messing up rather than giving myself an opportunity to do my best, because if I give myself an opportunity to do my best by taking the risks that I would normally take at home, or just not being too safe and wasting time being safe, then yes, that introduces more risk for failure, but it also creates my only opportunity to do my best. And I think that matters a lot more than trying not to fail, unless, of course, I had one competition for the rest of my life and I didn't want to like not make finals or something. So I know a lot of you guys watching may not have thought that much about competition when it comes to cubing, but I know you guys are competitive people, and I'm wondering if you guys have had similar experiences or insights, just how you guys compete when it comes to anything, whether it's sports, maybe chess or or video games, anything. At first, when I started practicing blindfolded, I was kind of worried that I wouldn't do well in competition, but it's pretty cool that I've able to come up with a new insight, even though, yes, I'm not doing as well in competition, but sometimes I'm doing near my very best, so that's a pretty cool thing that's happened. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.